David, we wanted to get you on the program and Madison here as well, because the 47th annual Goldman Sachs Global Healthcare Conference just wrapped up in Miami last week. Among the themes, M&A, AI, China, global policy. Would you say it's fair to say you left the conference feeling more bullish than when you arrived?
Sure, Tim, Carol, and Madison, thank you for having me today. Medtech and healthcare IT has been one of the more challenging parts of healthcare this year, really as the industry goes through a series of innovation, kind of overhaul and changes that have driven a slowdown in growth that we expect to resume in 2027. And I came out of the conference very bullish on the scope of innovation across the space. You mentioned AI and M&A and some of the factors that have the potential to drive growth here. And while 2026 may prove to be a more challenging year for the space, there's a lot of factors that we think have the potential to accelerate growth in 2027 and thereafter.
So we know, AI is something that industries and companies across the board are talking about, our healthcare companies included. And, we hear a lot about drug development and AI and various ways that these companies are implementing it. What to you right now is actually like the most promising part of AI when it comes to healthcare companies?
It's a great question, Madison, because I think one of the things that everyone has struggled with is how do you take AI as a concept and turn it into a business? And you look across the medtech and healthcare IT industry, this is an area where I think you're actually seeing that happen right now. And let me give you two very specific examples of companies that I cover. One is Dexcom. Company is one of the market leaders in continuous glucose monitoring. As they look to advance the management of patients suffering from diabetes, one of the areas where AI can play a really significant role is things like carb counting. Patient can take a picture of a meal and see exactly what the predicted impact on their glucose might be. So Dexcom and Abbott, leaders in this space, and it's all about here simplification of diabetes management and automating that process for patients who do need to deliver insulin and count carbs and other metabolic factors. Second example is a technology called ZeoPatch, with company tickers IRTC or iRhythm. They make a product that helps physicians identify patients who may be at risk of suffering an arrhythmia. Patient wears something like this for 14 or 30 days. So just think about the vast amount of data that's being ingested there and the ability to triage that and give physicians the intel they need to make a rapid diagnostic that can lead to an intervention and help patients in a more timely way and reduce things like unnecessary hospitalizations. Those are two of the primary examples that I would point to. And the third is around robotic surgery. Intuitive has a product called MyIntuitive Plus. It's a software platform that aggregates data across surgical procedures to help inform things like physician training and to sort of standardize and normalize these procedures, which still sit in the hands of individuals, but the extent to which you can use data to standardize utilization should drive further adoption of these technologies.
Why are they so down so much? iRhythm is down almost 40%. It's about a $3.5 billion market cap company. Intuitive Surgical, it's a company we often talk a lot about, down about 26% year to date. What's going on?
Yeah, there are two things at play here. One is a rotation out. MedTech was one of the better performing sectors in healthcare heading into 2026. With the signing of the 17 MFN deals, we really saw biopharma become very much a sector that drove a lot of rotation out of MedTech into biotech and pharma. The second is concerns around the macro environment, so how things like changes to the Affordable Care Act will impact volumes, how things like Medicaid changes might impact how hospitals invest in capital. And you haven't really seen anything like that play out, but the stocks have really pre-traded that and taken a very short-term view of growth, which is why we're optimistic about 2027, both from a business perspective and stock standpoint. And Intuitive probably represents one of the names that we like that is down quite a bit here, that does have the potential to turn here as revenue growth improves throughout the year.
Because you mentioned Abbott and Dexcom, I'm curious what you think of the consumer opportunity there and the consumer market, both with what you were talking about with AI, but also with continuous glucose monitors, which both companies are looking to get into more actual healthy consumers, not people with diabetes. What sort of opportunity are we looking at there?
It does feel like at some point we're all going to be just wearing, I know we can already certain things, but that everybody or that your health insurer is going to require you to wear something to monitor everything. But anyway, take it it away off of Madison's question.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things that Dexcom is talking about is wearing continuous glucose monitors before you go to a physical, for example, to gather relevant data around stress, sleep, glucose, et cetera, that can better inform how a physician treats you. Remember, an average primary care physician will see 25 to 40 patients a day. So the extent to which that individual can be armed with relevant data should help them better triage patients and manage them accordingly. So the consumer opportunity on CGM specifically, I'm shocked actually at how fast it's gone. Dexcom generated about $100 million in revenue for their Stelo product last year. They've talked about it growing about 50% this year. And remember, these are products that patients will use maybe a couple times a year. So the fact that you're seeing that early adoption rate suggests that there's just a massive volume of adoption. We think the whole wellness theme is really in its infancy as it relates to the intersection of healthcare and wellness. And this is where AI and technology becomes so important, because information data will ultimately inform how patients manage wellness and then eventually healthcare.
Hey, David, more on the continuous glucose monitors, but this time for in the context of people who do have diabetes. I was actually talking to a neighbor recently, and he was looking at his app. He does have diabetes, and he said, okay, this one measures, this is the device that measures my glucose. I have also the insulin pump that automatically pumps there. But he said the problem is, I don't have an app that just does both of these that's been approved by the FDA. So he was showing me this sort of like side-loaded, like gray market app that he said he's been using for years. The regulatory environment, like why can't there be an app that talks to each other officially that is approved by regulators?
So a lot of companies are working on something called, the pump companies are working on something called closed loop therapy that would integrate insulin delivery with pump therapy. So right now there's something called automated insulin delivery, or AID. You can in some cases control your CGM app from the pump app. One of the dynamics here is that CGM tends to be what patients go on first, and then they go on a pump. It's very rare that you see patients go on them together. So when they're developed and approved separately, so that's one of the factors at play here. But there are a series of apps now. For example, on Insulet's app, you can access your Dexcom CGM through the pump app in some cases. So that is evolving, but you will still see them as different products.